There was a time when loading screens were the most boring part of a game. A black screen, a progress bar, or maybe if you were lucky, a single tooltip that said, press X to jump. Meanwhile, your console was in the background making noises that sounded like it was grinding coffee beans. But some developers, some absolute mad lads, decided to make loading screens fun. And I'm not just talking about adding a dinky little game tip. I'm talking about actual playable games, unseen lore drops, and occasionally incomprehensible nonsense. So began the golden era of creative loading screens. Little moments that enhance the game or sometimes just let you punch stuff while the game got its act together. Today we're diving into some of the most creative loading screens in video game history. And trust me, after this, you'll miss waiting for games to load. Ridge Racer. Back in 1994, Ridge Racer didn't just give you a spinning logo while the CD drive wheezed in the background. It gave you Galaga, a literal arcade game inside of your loading screen. Beat all the enemies before the race started, and you could even unlock extra cars. That's right, Namco said, yeah, our game is good, but here's an entire other game, just because we love you. And now all we get is tooltips. What a cruel life. Assassin's Creed. Instead of a static image, Assassin's Creed series threw you into an infinite limbo and said, hey, you're trapped here until the next city loads, but feel free to run in a circle like a maniac. In some Assassin's Creed games like Valhalla, the loading screen basically turns into your own personal armory. You can swing weapons around or try out combos like you're a Viking browsing the clearance rack at a medieval weapon shop. Sure, it was just a disguised loading screen, but it felt like you were inside of the Animus waiting for the next world to render. FIFA. EA Sports actually nailed something once. While FIFA loaded up the stadium, you gotta warm up on a practice pitch, taking more shots than my grandma on her last cruise. Basically, it was a mini sandbox to play with while you waited. It's the only time in FIFA history where you could miss up 100 shots in a row and nobody would scream at you in the stands. Bayonetta. Bayonetta basically said, why just wait when you can get your stylish murder on early? Her loading screens weren't just waiting rooms, they were combo training grounds. You could spawn enemies, test out weapons, and practice those flawless dodges before the real chaos even began. Lies of P. Lies of P goes full-on storytelling mode with Pinocchio's nose growing bigger as you wait. Instead of loading, it cheekily flashes, now lying, because, you know, Pinocchio. It's such a clever twist that actually fits the game's theme perfectly. While you're staring at that sneaky nose stretching out, it also showcases different areas of the game. But it's not just eye candy, they drop lore tidbits that sync beautifully with the visuals. You're getting a mini history lesson and a vibe check, all while waiting for your game to slowly throw you into this dark and twisted fairy tale world. If more games did this kind of thematic loading, I'd be way less salty about having to wait at all. Skyrim. Skyrim's loading screens are the OG of painstakingly long waits. You can spam rotate 3D items in every direction possible while learning their lore. And then there's the music, that sweeping epic theme that makes you feel like you're about to storm a dragon's lair, or accidentally get caught stealing a wheel of cheese. But here's where Skyrim's loading screens really shine. The modding community. Modders far and wide have made loading screen mods that don't take themselves too seriously. From goofy messages like, please wait while the dragon plots your demise, to classic community memes, the mod scene turns Skyrim's loading screens into something sweeter than a stolen sweet roll. Honestly, if you've ever wanted your loading screen to roast you or distract you with nonsense, Skyrim's got your back. It's the gift that keeps on spinning. Crash Bandicoot. Crash didn't just stand around twiddling his thumbs during a loading screen. Nah, he was too busy free-falling through this wild, psychedelic galaxy like he'd accidentally wandered into a fever dream. Sure, you couldn't control it, but that slow cosmic tumble was just weird enough to keep your brain from flipping a table. Okami. Okami's loading screen is basically just a tiny party that you can crash while waiting. Instead of staring at a static image, you can mash buttons and make little paw prints appear all over the screen. Cute, right? But wait, it gets better. If you mash those buttons just right, you can unlock extra demon fangs. The game straight up rewards you for being impatient and hammering the controller like you just spilled your energy drink everywhere. It's the perfect why not moment, turning loading screens from an unnecessary evil into a minigame that actually matters. Plus, it's so on brand for Okami's vibe. Simple, charming, and just a teeny bit cheeky. Honestly, I wish every game had a loading screen this fun. Makes you want the game to load slower, just so you can keep smashing buttons and leave your mark. Dark Souls. Dark Souls and some of its siblings like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 2 keep it brutally simple when it comes to loading screens. No flashy graphics or minigames here, just stark backgrounds and tons of item descriptions. Each description is a tiny piece of lore. Sometimes it's about a sword soaked in the blood of dragons, and other times it's a ring that's said to curse its wearers. Players aren't just waiting, they're decoding an entire dark fantasy world, one cryptic paragraph at a time. As an avid lore buff, I absolutely love them. It feels like stepping deeper into a twisted mystery. You might be dying 100 times to a boss, but hey, at least you're slowly piecing together the story of the world while doing it. Rayman Legends. Rayman doesn't just make you stare at a static image while the game loads. Instead, it tosses you into this quirky little shadow level filled with collectibles. During the loading screen, you can actually control Rayman running around and jumping while picking up those glowing power-ups floating in the air. Even better, the longer your load time, the more time you have to goof around in this shadowy limbo. But unfortunately, the main level would often load before you had the opportunity to grab the power-up. Monster Hunter. Okay, so technically they're not loading screens, but every Monster Hunter game has that iconic pre-hunt cooking scene. If you take the time to grab a meal before heading out, you're rewarded with a drool-worthy montage of sizzling meats and perfectly plated dishes. Like a medieval cooking show that just gets you hungry to hunt, and maybe for a midnight snack. We're living in an era of almost instant loading, but that also means we've lost one of gaming's weirdest art forms. The loading screen used to be a place where devs could slip in a joke, a challenge, or even a secret lesson. These days, with better technology, loading screens are disappearing entirely. But honestly, I kinda miss them. Because deep down, nothing will ever beat getting your butt kicked by Galaga before the actual game even starts.